Hello everyone, my name is Arsalan Riazi. Today I am going to have a presentation on a particularly important topic of impaired driving. Hope this can be educational and make you question and think about the impact of impaired driving. Impaired driving kills more than 1,500 people each year provincially and 63,000 people each year nationally. This issue needs to be talked about so the society can understand the huge burdens it can have on the lives of the people around and involved with this heinous accident. Before we get into the details, let's take a look at a brief history of impaired driving, its influences for the community, and examining its legal aspects, its statistical analysis, and the impact it has on society. Based on a study by Law Now, in 1969, the Canadian Parliament changed the criminal code to include drinking while intoxicated. This new legislation implemented a new way of measuring and calculating this impairedness, the blood alcohol level. According to Canadian Encyclopedia, there has been different initiatives to combat impaired driving, such as tactics such as ride checks, random ride checks where you get in your city. In 1980s, a grassroots organization named MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, was able to create a discourse in the society about the major risks of impaired driving. With this organization came a rapid growth and eventually spread to Canada. MAD has been able to gain enough lobby power that could affect and eventually change legislation regarding impaired driving. As the laws has changed over time, the punishment for the crime has changed over time. And with this comes different consequences, such as getting your license suspended, dealing with huge fines, and sometimes jail time. In Ontario, the Ministry of Transportation has made it mandatory by law to have legal blood alcohol level of 0 to 0.05 depending on your license. But if you do fail a roadside test, or have higher than 0.05, you will be dealing with the penalties. One penalty, for example, is you get a first offense of 3 days suspension, $250 fine. Second offense of 7-day license suspension, $350 fine, and a mandatory education program called Back on Track. And finally, the third one, you will be dealing with 30-day license suspension, $450 fine, a mandatory treatment program, not an educational program, and an ignition interlock device mandatory for your system, and a mandatory medical evaluation by a professional. MAD released a report on the cost and consequences of convicted impaired drivers, which can be very expensive. This cost can vary from provincial fees to legal fees. These costs can come on heavy for the offender with a final invoice of more than $50,000, an additional cost of thinking about how to get a driver's insurance for your vehicle, which can cost you an annual fee of more than $45,000. There's other fees such as administrative fees, impound fees of $1,800, $634 for remedial programs, and the most important one, the $1,500 rental for the ignition interlock, so you can be able to pass and go back on track. And there's additional $7,000 legal fees, additional on top of the other ones. And another huge impaired driving issue is the conviction. In 1985, the legislation added a new offense, impaired driving causing bodily harm or even sometimes death. And depending on them, has different sentencing. For causing bodily harm, you have a maximum sentence of 10 years. For causing death, you have a maximum sentence of 14 years, depending on your conviction. All these laws and regulations have made statistics a little better. If you take a look in the Canada-wide from MAD again, the changes have been amazing. The total from 2010 of 68,000, changing it to 55, reducing it to 55,000 in 2017. This is another statistics. You can see the percentage here from 1982 from 60% to 2014 to 31.5%. And this one again, in the provincial statistics, you can see a total charge of 16,000 reduced to 13,000. It's been interesting to see the positive views from the public towards this impairment regulation and laws. Community members and other people living within these communities have been informed about the dangers of impaired driving. According to Canada, Encyclopedia Canada, recent studies indicate that during the month of December, which is the most heaviest time for impaired offenses, alcohol-related offenses are actually decreasing. And designated driving programs have become popular. With the help of law enforcement, awareness about impaired driving has increased with the help of social media platforms that directly attack the impaired driver. For example, York Regional Police is using shame tactics with the partnership with Twitter to list all the people that are impaired, names of the people impaired in their Twitter account. It seems, according to Toronto Star, typically 20 to 30 drivers weekly would be in their Twitter feed. And running this campaign, YRP was sending a message that everyone's watching. Doesn't matter if we are here, everyone is controlling. In recent times in Ontario itself, a man named Muzo killed a grandfather and the 3 grandchildren in that car due to an impaired driving accident, resulting in Muzo to plead guilty and be sentenced to jail. In conclusion, I hope everyone is now aware of the risks and the consequences of impaired driving, and you may have a better understanding of the burden it can have on our families, loved ones around them and around you. By law enforcement continuing to work hard with organizations as MAD to combat impaired driving and make communities and keep the pedestrians and the roads safe. By using public transportation such as TTC, taxi, or even Uber. Thank you for watching.